Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, also in the Times, just to the side, they've got that's an interesting headline, isn't it? Pensioners have more cash than those in work. I'm sure that depends on what sort of pensioner you are and what sort of job you have. But, I mean, it's a striking headline, isn't it?
Again, it's interesting because this is one of the other great struggles of our time between the younger generations who are struggling to get the foot on the housing ladder against the overprotected and some would say over-pampered pensioners who are being protected by the government from all the welfare cuts despite soaking up a huge amount of the budget. And I think this is one more part of that whereby there is this debate going on, and it does feel to a lot of people as though perhaps younger people are not getting enough support and older people are getting perhaps just that little bit too much protection, particularly not those who are less well off, but particularly the better off pensioners.
This report spells it out in black and white. There's a report from the Institute of Fiscal Studies saying that pensioners, once they've paid for their housing costs, have a disposable income on average of £394 a week compared to people in their 20s and 30s who are on £385. This is the same Institute of Fiscal Studies, of course, that's warned about the tax credit cuts, which will, of course, hit younger families, working people, and leave some people £1,300 a year worse off. It's not that there is no pensioner poverty, but you know, poverty amongst pensioners, according to this report, is 15%. Poverty amongst younger age groups is 20 to 30%. And they're basically saying that this triple lock that sustained pensions over the last decade, that means the pension always increases with inflation, has to end and will have to be confronted.
The other big story elsewhere is about pensioners. It's on the front of the Times, the Express, and a number of other newspapers as well. I think the Telegraph. The fact that pensioners have more cash than those who are workers.
Yes,
for the first time, is this?
Speaking of our houses, it's saying it's an astonishing turnaround in the fact that older people's wealth now outstrips that of the younger generation. And this is all tied in, as Tom will explain, with the notion of the tax credit cock-up, I was going to say, in that actually, because the pensioners of this country, indeed Tory heartland voters essentially, have been given so many fillips in terms of being encouraged to continue to vote Conservative, with the likes of UKIP perhaps trying to entice them in a different direction. Actually, there isn't any money left to take from anyone else, and therefore it's the young and up-and-comings that are having to suffer.
Exactly.
So they've been protected, have they, during these lean years since 2007?
For the last 5 years, of all the 5 years of austerity that we've had, pensioners have been pretty much ring-fenced from the pain that us workers have been having to go through. If you think, actually, pensions have gone up, and this is not just pensioners have more wealth than working people, but their income. Pensioners earn more money than people who go to work, which is a staggering statistic now, but absolutely true, because pensions have gone up and, working people have been taking all the pain for paying more taxes or having their benefits cut or whatever it may be. And the Chancellor's really boxed himself in here. He's ring-fenced pensioners, which is, after all, part of the welfare bill, £120 billion of the £220 billion total welfare. That all goes on pension. He's ring-fenced that. He's ring-fenced the health service. Very recently ring-fenced the defence budget, meeting the 2% target. There ain't much else left to cut apart from in-work benefits, which is why he's got his tax credits problem.
And also earning a bigger income and yet sitting on hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of equity that isn't going to be released actually until they die. So actually there's another story in the Metro, just look at it very quickly, from young people saying they can't afford rent anymore. It's too expensive. One girl is cited there, Anna Evans, 25. She's a primary school teacher. She says she's paying 720 quid a month to share a house in Balham with 5 other women.
Well, I thought you were going to talk about equity in government buildings, which takes us to this story.
That takes us that one.
Yes, I thought that's where you were going.
Oh, sorry.
So, So, the budgets used to happen once a year. Now they seem to happen all the time, making them even less interesting than they used to be. And the latest one was a bit like watching Kanye West. Controversial figure centre stage, all the best bits nicked from other people. Non-dom status was abolished, just like Ed Miliband wanted.
People who spent more than 15 hours of the last 20 years in Britain now have to pay tax here, which is quite a good deal, really. In Germany, you spend 2 weeks in Greece on holiday, and you're asked to pay all their tax for them. Back here, though, there was some news on new finance for the Northern Powerhouse, although the new Transpennine link is already cancelled, and the new money turns out to include regular maintenance for the A1.
Yes, although Northern Powerhouse always sounds to me like a chain of electrical shops.
Here at Northern Powerhouse, we've got new railways, road links and infrastructure, but there's nothing to pay for at least 5 years. See our great range of projects and plans before the election, but then take advantage of our 0% finance. That's right, 0% of our projects are financed. Northern Powerhouse, where the future is in the future.
As usual, most of the budget was leaked in advance. We already knew that George Osborne was cutting free TV licences for the over-75s, although he did this by forcing the BBC to pay for them.
Which seems fair. If you're that age, the BBC won't let you present television programmes, but they will at least let you watch them for free.
But is this a slippery slope? Is the BBC now going to be forced to do more and more for the benefit of the over-75s? There are rumours, for example, that in addition to the sign language person in the corner of the screen, soon there will be an option to have another person there to remind you who everyone is. Or you can press a new button on your remote and you'll get special subtitles saying...
He was in Taggart.
It's a very popular service with the over-70s, I can tell you. Over to you, Hugh.
It's him out of Outnumbered.
Yes, all right.
We shouldn't be surprised, though. Everything in this country is run for the benefit of the senior citizen. Everyone else is facing cuts.
Yeah, I mean, they could have just stopped free licences or at least means-tested them.
And if they were worried about the over-75s protesting against the decision, they could have asked the BBC to move that night's 10 o'clock news to 11:30. And they'd never have found out about it.
But no, because everything in this country is done to please old people. I mean, you probably noticed this week that they've clearly even forced the Duchess of Cambridge to dress Prince George like a ghost child from the 1940s. All he needs is a label and a gas mask. He could be straight out of an episode of Doctor Who.
Ah, doesn't he look sweet?
No, he looks like he only materialised on the photograph when it was developed. But it keeps the grannies happy, and that's what matters. That's all governments seem to care about. It's almost as if there's some correlation between bothering to vote and getting what you want. I mean, this budget abolished housing benefit for the under-21s and grants for poorer students.
While simultaneously ensuring that the over-75s can pass on £1 million houses, which they can heat at the taxpayers' expense while watching their free TV and spending their newly released pension money.
So essentially, we've all got to put up with cheaper programmes so the richest generation of pensioners in history can carry on watching for free. The shortfall, though, will be balanced in a couple of ways. One...
Those who only watch iPlayer on computers and phones...
That's mainly younger people.
...will now have to buy a TV licence.
I see what you did there, Gideon. And two...
Due to welfare cuts, there will, in the future, be far fewer people making it to the age of 75 as they're polished off by hunger and lack of housing.
So, that's one thing. The other is that the BBC will have to be more creative in how it raises money from older viewers. The obvious solution is to introduce a charge for complaining about programmes. Or better still, make the complaints line an 0898 number. And then encourage people to spend longer on the phone in the usual ways. I mean, Radio 4 alone could make up the shortfall in months.
Age 75 or over. Needlessly angry over the way a young presenter pronounced a word. Call me now. I'm ready, willing and aching for your opinion.
I was appalled to hear Brighton referred to as a beautiful seaside town on the Today programme this morning. Brighton and Hove was granted city status in the year 2000.
Ooh, you're right. I need correction.
Also, it's full of litter.
I want to hear you moan.
But the BBC is a small part of the overall picture, really. It's more that this constant hammering of younger people and pandering to older people seems vaguely perverse. It's like they want young people to resent their elders, and then the resentment builds and builds until eventually the generations are at war. Part of the problem, I think, is that our idea of old age is permanently several decades out of date. We still think of old people as fighting the war for us, but that's rubbish. Today's 70-somethings never fought anyone. I know because it's my parents' generation. Teenagers of the 50s, young in the 60s, free higher education, bought houses in the 70s, watched them go up 43 times in value and got final salary pensions. And they have the nerve to complain about everything. I tell you, old people today, they don't know they're born. They should stay where they belong, on the main stage at Glastonbury.
Just cause our house is worth £1 million. Talking about our generation. Gotta use my pension to buy a boat. Talking about our generation. And all because we bother to vote.